Hello and welcome. So I'm trying this traditional Sri Lankan coconut oil lamp that they use to offer light to the Buddha Rupa here. One of the Upasika's, elderly lady in a short absence where I went away, has been offering this each day. I thought it might sustain itself more readily against the fan than the candle. But it's just coming to the end of its oil, so we'll see how it goes. And the camera seems a lot closer today. I'm not sure quite why, but I hope you can see me okay. The first comment or question, after the nice comments, I would love to hear about your daily routine, as your minimal lifestyle is very inspiring to me. So, I've spoken about this just recently already, and I think I'm getting a little bit of a backlog on the comments here, so this may have already been talked about. But just to elaborate further on that, which is I think what you're asking, is, well, my daily routine is quite, what's your word? Minimal. So, it's simplistic, I would suggest. My last run through my daily routine was my normal 3-6-9-12, 3-6-9-12 reminder. So I wake at 3, puja at 6, Pindapata 6:30, hospital dana around at around 7:30, returning here for 8 o'clock to share any remaining food and prepare for my meal at 8:30, taking me till 9, when I have a period of cleaning, a little more sweeping. Sometimes there's sweeping at other times throughout the day, maybe when I first wake at 3, just to ensure that any sand and leaves are out of the way of where we walk. The afternoon from around 9:30, 10 o'clock, or late morning is clear. Often that's my time for correspondence, just checking through these comments here and emails, replying to those directly. Up until around 12 o'clock. There's usually time for a cup of coffee in the morning then. There's plenty of time, of course. There's no other real responsibilities. Usually visitors wouldn't come in the morning, but if they do, it would be around late morning after the meal time and clear up is finished. Then the afternoon, 12 till 3, is either rest or meditation time. And then again 3 till 6, maybe some sweeping, gardening, that which we're allowed to do as bhikkhus, duties anyway, watering mainly, and sweeping, watering and sweeping, sweeping and watering, till 6 when it's evening puja, through till 6:30, taking us through to meditation time again, up until about 9 o'clock, 10, 11, 12. So that's my routine, sleeping any time between 10, 11, 12, and waking again the next day at 3. But you'll hear the Buddha describe the 3 watches of the night, so rather than my dividing the day up into 3 hours, 3 hourly slots, he divides the morning, the day and the night into 2 sections of 4-hour slots. So a monk, a bhikkhu, a bhikkhuni, or a nun's day begins at dawn. So the period between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m., or approximately 5 to 5:30 a.m., which is what we call dawn. Dawn here in Asia is usually roughly being that it's on the equator around the same time, at around 5:30 in the morning, as is sunset at around 6 o'clock in the evening, the same time each day, being closer to the equator. So it's easier for us to have a stable routine based around daylight and nighttime, dark. The Buddha describes the 3 watches of the night as being from 6 in the evening until 10, so once it gets dark, until 10 o'clock, the first 4 hours. That's the first 4 hours of maybe puja and meditation. Then from 10 until 2, which should be usually put aside for rest, for sleep. This was in the time of the Buddha and what suited his own practice and the Sangha, his developing Sangha. So 6 till 10, 10 till 2, and then 2 till 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 11, 12, 1. I think I've got this wrong. Anyway, the 4 watches of the night are something like that. I'm not used to it now. So 2 o'clock is, I remember something, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that's right. So from 2 till 6 again is the end of the previous day. So this now, it's around 4 a.m. I think, is the end of yesterday for a monk. In an hour's time, as the sun just below the horizon starts to give its light to the world in these parts, is the beginning of my new day. So, although I may wake at 3, it's the night time before. So it's additional practice from the day before. But it's also the beginning of my day. That's my routine. Not quite like the 4 watches of the night that the Buddha describes. And then the day, similarly, can be divided into, 3 fours, isn't it? 3 fours, as opposed to my 4 threes. 3, 6, 9, 12. 3, 6, 9, 12, yes. Maybe I've got my maths all a bit muddled and fuddled there, I'm not sure. But really, it's very simple and minimalistic. I wake up early, well before dawn, so as I'm prepared for the day, which begins at dawn. Then, it's very much a simple routine. There's nothing much, unless I'm travelling from A to B, going somewhere else, or visiting. If there are any additional activities required, like say a doctor or a hospital or a dentist visit for myself, that would be done late morning after the meal, or on rare occasions, mid-afternoon. Probably here you try to avoid going out between 12 and 3, if it's possible, because it's very hot then. So even if you can stand it, whoever's taking you might not prefer that time. It might be their preferred time for rest. So I try to avoid doing anything between 12 and 3 that involves going anywhere outside. So monks don't normally, unless under exceptional circumstances, go out of their dwelling place or their monastery or their solitary abode after or in the afternoon, unless it's for medical reasons. We don't go wandering around looking at things. That's not to be done. We stay put for our practice. We have those 3 hours, 3 hours, 3 hours like that for the afternoon practice where we live. Oh, this is quite appropriate. The next comment, what is the spiritual reason behind waking up at 3 a.m.? No spiritual reason. It's a practical way for me to easily remember, and once I have had established that routine of waking up at 3 a.m., it's become natural. I don't usually need an alarm. Sometimes I do. I have one set just in case I don't wake up, but if I didn't wake up, it's not the end of the world, but I'm keen to wake up then, so I do, naturally, and that's okay. If I was to stay sleeping perhaps till 11 o'clock. I think actually some people might miss me because they're waiting for me on Pindapata and arms round. And maybe those of you that view morning puja at 6 might wonder where I've got to or what's happened. But other than that, there's no spiritual reasoning behind it or mystery. It's just my practical way of organising my day. Like I said, 369, 369, 369, 12, 369, 12 is nice even slots. I'm not looking at the watch all the time. It's based on darkness and light. Darkness and light, and then dividing those up into those quarters. Okay. It also fits in well with the routine and structure. When you visit monasteries, communities, their routine is often based around that timing, those timings. It may order what's done at those times, but if they have bells that ring at certain times, it's usually those times I'm referring to, my own times. Okay, Bhante, how can one improve their practice if there aren't any monasteries around the place I live? Is travel necessary? I educate myself about Buddhism and meditate. Do you have any advice for me? So what I'll say there is certainly there isn't a necessity to travel, firstly, and the majority of the people outside of Buddhist countries are in the same position as you, that there aren't local, nearby Buddhist monasteries, and if there are, they may not be of the tradition that your practice revolves around. So for instance, I come from a tradition of Theravada Buddhism, the way of the elders, which is very much based on the teachings in the Pali canon, or the suttas, which are written in Pali, the Pali language, translated into English for our benefit, and are the word of the Buddha, the teachings of the Buddha, where he describes simple things like I was just talking about, the 3 watches of the night, and anapanasati, how to meditate using breath as the meditation object, and everything else associated with the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha. This can be done, as you describe, very well at home, in your comfortable home environment, which you can, if necessary, especially if you live alone, adapt to monastic conditions by way of not adding. You don't need to go out and buy anything, adding trinkets. You might like to create a little shrine with a small Buddha Rupa, but it isn't 100% necessary. It just gives you something, a direction to focus on, focus your attention on, in order to sort of put the outside environment behind you for some time. But other than that, there's nothing really much to add, but maybe take away. So find a corner in your house or your property where you don't have the sounds of television or radio or music disturbing you, or people's talk disturbing you. There's always going to be sounds, there's always going to be distraction. You cannot get away from that. It's there. Even if you were to get away from that in solitary confinement with sensory deprivation, say in a sensory deprivation chamber, floating effortlessly on saline solution, something like that, you cannot get away from the goings-on of the mind, the thinking process, papancha, which is overthinking in Pali. This papancha will continue, and even in those sensorily deprived conditions, be exacerbated to enormous degrees, in fact. The less external distraction there is, the more thinking there is. And it's filling in the gaps. So we cannot control that, but by our practice, by focusing on a meditation object, we allow that to just naturally begin to settle and calm with time, with patience. It will occasionally start up again, the thinking process, and thought will lead to another thought, leading to another thought, a chain of linked patterns of thinking. Some describe this as the monkey mind, where it's jumping from, like a monkey, from tree to tree, as they do here. The thoughts jump, seemingly, for no reason, from one subject to another to another. One way of not stopping this, not controlling this, but understanding this, is to trace those links back, follow those thoughts back. If you find yourself overthinking on a subject whilst you're meditating, or even whilst you're going about some mundane and routine daily activities like sweeping or washing up that don't require thinking, then you can take what it is that you're thinking about, what it is that's disturbing your mind, and follow the train of thought back. Like the cars of a train are linked. Each thought in each process of analysis going on up there is linked to the previous. And you might be thinking about something, and what led to that? And then what led to that? And then what led to that? It all started with something quite unrelated, which shows you the insignificance and uncontrollability of thinking and thought. How it isn't us, how it isn't ours, how it isn't me or mine or I. This is leading to the understanding through that investigation, through that beginning to see clearly, seeing clearly, the Pali word for which is vipassana. With that investigation, one sees clearly, vipassana, the nature of anatta, not self, in the mind, in the thought process. Often people can relate to not self with regards to the body, with its aging and its malfunctioning and its erratic behaviours, its changeability and sometimes lack of controllability, more easily as being not self. Also with Marananusati, so contemplation of death, aging, sickness and death, and the subsequent decay of the body, people can more easily relate to the physical body not being theirs, but not so much the thinking brain, where all of their intellectual knowledge is stored, their memories of the past, their hopes and aspirations and imaginations, which is all it is for the future, seems to be something that is of much greater and more substantial a nature than the physical body, whereas in fact it is less so. It is more volatile, it is less sustainable, less fixed, more, the word slipped, this failing mind, brain, thinking brain at the moment, the word I'm looking for has gone completely. Where's it gone? Who knows? It was there, it's now gone. A blank space is there. This is good. This is emptiness. This is showing, demonstrating a more relaxed state of mind. It's not hanging on to a word, a thought, a pattern of thinking. There are times we need to be doing that. We're concentrating on a job. We're thinking something through. This is mundane, daily life actions of body, speech and mind. The thinking brain I'm referring to there in relation to mind in that context. And the thinking brain is just that, like a computer that's on board. We have this tendency to, though, live in our head. We are being transported around by this clumsy, cumbersome body of ours, but sitting up there in our heads, looking out, listening, experiencing all that we go through from a place of the driver in this thinking brain. Whereas when you see it through seeing clearly, investigating it, you will see how transient those thoughts and even that intellectual knowledge, what you have learned. Say you learn a foreign language and then you don't use it for a long time. You might pick it up again quite quickly when you revisit the country, but for the time being it goes into the archives. As does any unused information, is kind of archived and not prevalent in your thinking process. It's very much a demonstration of impermanence, more so than the physical body, which is slightly more substantial and longer lasting, as every thought comes and goes, every emotion comes and goes. You'll hear in Buddhist talk all of the time, oh, this arises in my mind and passes away. And it's very true, this is what is happening, like clouds in the sky as they pass through. It's thoughts coming and going, much at our own instigation through our actions with our body and interactions with others via speech and contact. Impermanent, temporary, and certainly, as one comes to see eventually, not a self, not the personality or the being we think we are, or any sense of a permanent soul. But our characteristics of this body and mind, representative of the 5 khandhas, the rupa, the physical element, including the thinking brain and the sense contact organs, eyes, ears, nose, taste, skin for feeling, then the thinking process of papancha in the brain, in the mind, the thinking brain. We have this rupa, we have then sanya, so perception or recollection through experience, vedana, feelings, both physical and emotional, sankhara, those mental formations of thought, that's what's going on. Everything is sankhara, mind born. Not literally physically. My mind is perceiving this camera, it's not creating it, it is there. I put it there. It isn't me. We're all of the same elements, yes. Solidity, liquidity, gaseousness, space, temperature. In the case of humanity, we have also thought process, thinking, consciousness, awareness, knowing. But mental formation, sankhara. And vijnana, the sense consciousness coming from rupa, from those sense organs, the experience of this life. Citta, mind, not in this brain, not in the head where we live, the driving seat, the pilot's cockpit. We describe love as coming from the heart, don't we, in the body, sort of around the solar plexus here. We don't mean the physical pumping organ with its ventricles and aortas, etc. We mean the heart as in the center, a central area, like the heartwood of a tree. And often we describe citta as heart-mind, as opposed to thinking brain or heart-mind. It brings the two together, for want of a better way of trying to describe something that is indescribable, as it is not of this conditioned world. So many ask, well, please describe citta. Is it the soul? Is it permanent? Is it impermanent? Please commit yourself to one way or the other. We cannot. Permanence, impermanence is based on time, which is relative to existence, but existence alone and within this conditioned world. Whereas citta is not of this conditioned world, albeit it is conditioned by this conditioned world, but not subject to anicca, dukkha, anatta, other than by its attachments to those 5 khandhas I've just spoken of. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. Bodies, feelings, recollection, mental formations, consciousness, sense consciousness. Our citta is not inextricably, it's extricably linked to those 5 khandhas. And the way we extricate it is through liberation, through letting go, through seeing the impermanent nature of this physical body and this thinking brain, and letting it go and seeing that as not self. And this is no better and more clearly seen than when we sit in meditation. Now, I've really digressed from your question here. How can one improve their practice if there aren't any monasteries around the place? Understanding that the place, the monastery itself, is not necessarily essential in your practice, although they may be conducive to studying those suttas we were just talking about, and a structured day that supports meditation. But your monastery is your meditation. When you sit and you find a place in your home, you practice and you sit in samadhi. That can be anywhere in your home. And very often, as lay practitioners, you are more easily able to control your surrounding environment and your routine to fit an order of practice that suits you and the others you may live with or are around, and practice more easily than in the environment of a monastery, which is supporting a large community of often monks or nuns and lay practitioners, and will have many duties involved in the support of that large communities and activities going on to keep that community going. Whereas you're free from that as a lay practitioner, living alone or in a family, where you can take time aside whenever you wish, just for your own practice. And as you say, if you're studying Buddhism, if you're looking through the suttas or whatever reading material or information you have appropriate to your practice, and you're practicing meditation, you're doing, as a lay practitioner, the best you can do. So there are various devotional activities that go on in monasteries, supportive and in addition to this practice. But the primary practice in Buddhism is keeping the precepts, sila, meditation, samadhi, and developing wisdom, panya. And you're already describing that you're doing all of that in the comfort of your own home. So don't worry or think too much that you'd be better off in a meditation place or monastery or center. It isn't always necessarily the case. In fact, more often than not, it is very much more difficult to get a practice to suit you when you have to suit everyone else around you at the same time. You will come to the hall for meditation at 2 until 3. You will come to the kitchen at 3:30 till 4:30 for cleaning duties. You will go to sleep at this time. You will wake up at that time. Doesn't suit many. But you can tailor your practice in accordance with your environmental conditions. So often it's very much more suited to most people to be practicing at home. So don't worry too much about not having access to monasteries. If you want devotional practices, Buddha, puja, rupa, offering candles, incense to a shrine, you can do this too. Bowing to a shrine, you can do this too, as mindful reminders of your devotion to our teacher, the refuge we take in the Buddha, our teacher, whom is long gone, but by way of reminding us that someone succeeded in this practice attained to awakenedness, enlightenment, Buddha. Buddha means awakened. So that is our reminder, that is our refuge. And how? Through his teachings, Dharma. So we take refuge in the Dharma. And we're supported by Sangha, that is the ordained monks and nuns, whom have gone that little stage further by renouncing, relinquishing all worldly life and existence, including even their identity and name, to just practice, but also offer support to lay people whom can visit, can get to them, all these days like this, online. So you have online resources to help you also. So, could you please talk about citta? Or you say then citta santana. I have a few questions about it. How does it relate to the 5 aggregates? Is it something separate from them? Is it conditioned? Is it what reaches nirvana? Well, I think I've just answered exactly all of those 4 questions, with the exception of I don't talk about citta santana. That comes really from other schools of thought, other schools of Buddhism, other traditions, being the mental flow. It's trying to describe how the citta's existence continues from physical body and thinking brain in one lifetime to the next. It's a way of trying to analyze rebirth in some senses. But it's also brought within the parameters of this existence, this lifetime, as a way of describing the citta's experience going from one moment to the next moment, moment to moment, as rather than step by step or links in a chain, but a continuous flow. And citta santana is the flow, the mind stream, if you like, flow of thought which continues after this physical body dies. We don't really look at it as that way. Well, I personally don't really look at it as that way, because that is trying to describe it. It's described like sometimes one candle coming to its end can light another candle, which can light another candle. And my candle's still going. The oil lamp hasn't continued, I see, but that was because it's probably run out of oil. The different candles, but the same light, but different light, all of the same flowing structure, is how they describe citta santana. But what we're trying to do there again is describe something, aren't we? Describe something that is indescribable. So why? You can write books and books, and there are books and books on this subject, but what do they prove? What do they give us? Just more information, more ways of describing something that cannot be described. Let that go. Let intellectualism go, trying to get the answers that you'll never have go. Because if throughout humanity, and with the resources we have now, these answers have never been found, and logically speaking we know without our own experience, after this physical body dies and thinking brain dies, we cannot know what happens next, for sure. So we stop thinking about that. It's adding fuel to thought, more papancha. We're trying to get away from that to enjoy the experience of what we have now as best we can, and to let the mind calm, become peaceful, relaxed and tranquil. This state of samatha is the Pali word. Samatha is peace, calm, tranquil states of mind, which will result And vipassana, seeing clearly, which usually is only in the suttas when linked to samatha, vipassana samatha, and samatha is not samadhi, it's a peaceful and tranquil state of mind. Vipassana is not a meditation technique, it is seeing clearly. So we see clearly with a peaceful and calm and tranquil state of mind. This comes as a result of the Noble Eightfold Path, which culminates in sama samadhi, right meditation or concentration. So by concentrating on a meditation object exclusively, putting aside all other thoughts and feelings for the time that you're meditating, we allow that mind to settle into this state of samatha, and then to see clearly vipassana. So, I am meditating since 5 years, but I am unable to meditate for longer than 30 minutes. However, I intend to, and I reach very deep states as well sometimes. But problem is that my legs start to get numb, and it starts distracting me. Can you possibly guide how to overcome this? Tried to use an elevated platform, but this hasn't happened. So I think you're not meditating as I have shown you to meditate. If not for 5 years. If you say you are unable to meditate for more than 30 minutes. So it's not that you're unable. You may have no time. There may be constraints. You may have duties. You may have just physical impossibilities to spending longer than 30 minutes, which are out of your control. Yes, that's understandable. But it's more likely the case you just don't want to. You think you want to. You say even in that 30 minutes you intend and you reach very deep states as well. Well, you don't. I don't mean to be blunt, but you don't, because you say then you get a bit of a numb leg and it distracts you. So that isn't a deep state of meditation. That's just sitting for 30 minutes and then you're fed up and you get up. You need patience and endurance with this practice. But if you've been practicing meditation for 5 years and you say you're unable to sit for longer than 30 minutes, then you've not been practicing meditation the way I would show people to practice meditation or teach meditation, because you'd be sitting for 3 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours by now without difficulty, given the opportunity. Now, forget about your numb legs, sit on a chair or a stool if it's necessary. If you're young and able, watch my talks or the short video on how to sit properly. I say properly, but how to sit in a way where you won't get numb legs and have this difficulty. Because you don't want to give yourself any, conditions. You don't want to cut off the blood supply that might relate to further complications later. I don't know, so like a thrombosis or something like that. You want to be kind to your body, and if you sit correctly, you can be kind to your body. So I just moved my legs then, just to give myself some extra flow and support. But during meditation, you wouldn't want to move. So you make sure you're sitting in a very stable position in the first place. And you make the determination not to get into deep states of, as you're describing, deep states. No, you make the determination to sit for not 30 minutes, but for 40 minutes. Add on 10 minutes. And when you've been doing that for some time, say a week of 2 40-minute sessions a day, increase it to 50, and then an hour. Then an hour and a half, and then 2 hours, and then 3 hours. You can do it, yes, that rapidly over, that would be 3 or 4 weeks. You'd be sitting for 3 hours quite easily. Anything that comes up by way of an obstacle, like in your sensed and numb legs, then just adjust the posture accordingly. You say a platform, it still happens, then you're not sitting correctly. You may have tight jeans on, tight clothing on, or you're sitting in the wrong, well, there's no right or wrong, but there is a wrong way. If you're sitting in the school child cross-legged fashion, you're cutting off the nerves or the blood or the supply of whatever to all parts of the legs, and will always have this difficulty. So look at how to sit in the half lotus, or just sit with one leg in front of the other as I am now, on the floor or on a cushion or on a chair. But don't pay so much attention to that. Once you've got a comfortable posture, not leaning this way or that way or on the back of anything, then just make the determination to do nothing other than sit for the period of time you set. Now, if you've been meditating for 30 minutes for 5 years, I'd suggest you now try and meditate for 40 minutes, and you don't move until the 40 minutes is finished. Whatever happens. Now, if you'd reach deep states of samadhi, nothing will distract you, whereas you're secluded from the 5 hindrances, secluded from the physical body and its feelings, secluded from mental thinking. This is going into the first jhana. But I doubt very much you're even close to that at 30 minutes thinking about your legs. Get this posture right, get your clothing right, and as long as you're keeping all of the 5 precepts, there's no reason why you can't be meditating for a lot longer. It's not that you're unable, it's you're unwilling. You've got time. If you have time, that is, then you can. Everybody can. They just don't want to. Look at the 5 hindrances: sensual desire, ill will, dullness, restlessness and worry, and doubt. I've got many talks about those subjects. It's only those that are distracting you and not allowing you to meditate for more than 30 minutes. Identify which of those it is and use its antidote. So for instance, if it's sensual desire, use Asubha practices, the contemplation of the unbeautiful or unattractive nature of things. If it's ill will, use metta, loving kindness practice, and so on. Restlessness and worry is just thinking about the past and the future. Well, come back to the breath, the meditation object, which is very present in the here and the now. I know that as a Theravada monk you do not use mantras, but do you think that they are of any benefit to the layperson? So yes, in fact, chanting is really mantras, longer mantras, and in even Theravada Buddhism and even Theravada monks or nuns, bhikkhus or bhikkhunis, you'll often hear them use this mantra, a single word of 2 syllables, Bhutto, 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 Bhutto. Just Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. Pronounce any way you wish, as a word to replace thought and thinking, or a way of reducing thought and thinking by putting something in its place, the exchange method. So if you've got a cup and you put something in it, there's less room to fill it with anything else. And often we can do this with our thinking process by putting a mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, or something like this, or Bhutto, 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 or even Itipiso Bhagava Araham. Keep this going on in your mind continually. It gives the mind something to do. But be careful with mantras. I mean, there are people going around whom are continually repeating Bhutto, 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 or whatever their mantra might be. throughout the day. But when you get so much into the habit of that, you can still continue with other thinking and other thought as well. You can, as performing puja every morning when chanting, all the morning chanting, whilst doing that, still be thinking about what's coming next. I'm going on Pindapata in the moment, and what will I see this person today? I wonder if they're going to be giving me this. I wonder if they're going to be available to give me some assistance with this going on later. This can all be going on in the mind whilst seemingly reciting a very complex and difficult mantra to remember. But when it becomes something by rote, it is just that, going on by rote. And we can multitask in that way. So the point of a mantra is to be something there that's really going to take up space, occupy the mind. So in that case, it's very useful. But if it's just out of routine and ritual, then to some extent it's rather pointless. You'd be better off trying not to keep repeating the mantra. So if Bhutto has become habitual and by rote, and you can still think and do everything else while saying Bhutto, Bhutto, Bhutto in the back of your mind, now's time to change the pace of the Bhutto, the depth of the Bhutto, or replace it with a word that means something like anicca, impermanence, dukkha, suffering, anatta, not self. Not to contemplate or think more on those subjects, but if it does lead to that, at least it's replacing other distracting thoughts that may lead to supporting and fueling those 5 hindrances of sensual desire, ill will, drowsiness, restlessness and worry and doubt. So it's not that we do not use mantras. We do. We're chanting in the morning and in the evening, and many are Bhutto, Bhutto whilst they're walking meditation or just going about their mundane daily activities that don't require thought, replacing intrusive thinking with that mantra. But be aware and practice mindfulness, samasati, right mindfulness, on the way you use that mantra. As soon as it becomes rote, change it up a bit, alter it, adjust it. Otherwise you'll just be thinking and repeating your mantra. What exactly made you give up everything at 47? Was I? And I didn't watch your old videos to see. So yes, I've lost track of ages and things now, but yeah, that's probably about right. So that would be, what, 11 years ago, 12 years ago? I think it was, actually I might have been a bit younger than that. That's where Buddhism came into it. More permanently, it became more resident in my nature. It took up a permanent place of, Buddhism took up a permanent place of residence in my citta at some stage. And then I was around 47, when I realized that acquisition led to suffering, whereas renunciation led to contentment. So I'll say that again. So I realized that acquisition led to suffering, whereas renunciation led to contentment. And from contentment comes happiness. Happiness being a symptom of contentment, the result of being content. That is when I realized. That realization was enough. Prior to that, I'd been conditioned that we need to acquire, accumulate, get bigger and better, newer, more improved, educate, get more information, more knowledge, more abilities, more skills. And through experience up until that age, realized that only led me to more and more difficulties eventually, and fueled the desire for more and more and more and more, bigger and better, newer and improved. Whereas when I started to let go of all that, put it down. No light bulb moment. Well, perhaps there was a bit, because once I put something down, I wanted to put something else down. Much like the fuel to the fire of desire, I'd found the source, the fuel to renunciation, which is letting go, putting things down, or not holding so tightly to them. And putting some things down allows you to hold more loosely. Others you need to maintain until such a time comes that you can put that down also. Eventually arriving at a place where whatever you have will go with you. Your simple robes, your bowl, the few other requisites we carry, and nothing more. And therefore practice anywhere, in any circumstances. So last week I went away for a few days to visit a monastery. I took nothing other than my robes, what I'm wearing, and my other outer robe, and my bowl. And in my bowl I can put my toothbrush and razor. We should always carry a needle and cotton in case we damage our robes. And a cup or a water filter so we can get water. We can, as bhikkhus, as bhikkhunis, monks and nuns, help ourselves. It doesn't need to be offered to water. So you need a cup for that, so it's useful to carry a cup around with you, or a water filter is what is prescribed as one of our requisites. Now, having let go of everything, relinquished everything, renounced worldly life, you don't need anything more than that. And you don't need a place. You may, and you do for the first several years, require the support of a community, a monastic community, and live in a monastery. But once you're experienced enough in your practice, you can go off and live in solitude. And when you move from one place to the other, nothing really much changes. You put down where you were, you pick up what's different in terms of routine in the place where you arrive. But again, you don't hold on to that too tightly. This will also change when you move on. Circumstances change. You continually evolve. But what remains the same is the stability of mind. Calmness, peace, tranquility, samatha. Oh, so the next comment is very long, but it's a useful selection of questions relating to meditation, which I think I'll leave until tomorrow, next time. If there is something useful I've spoken about today, I hope you can use it. If not, just let it go, put it down, don't let it bother you. But please come back next time, tomorrow, and we'll go through these questions on meditation. Until then, be happy and stay well. Sukhi Hotu. I think the candle won, but that was the coconut oil running out. We'll try again next time.